Hi, and welcome to another episode of What Does the Fox Say? My name is Daniel Fox. This week, we're looking at what gives value in nature. In our culture, we see things in a pretty linear way, but in nature, value has more depth. We often hear the argument about how much resources it takes to create something. Nowadays, the topic is often on meat and how much water, grain, and fuel it takes to create a pound or a kilogram of meat. In our culture, where data is king, we tend to think in a really linear way. A plus B equals Z. We process the world around us in terms of input versus output. What goes in for what goes out. Pretty simple math. But in nature, it's more complicated than that. The value of an organism is not in the amount of energy that is needed to create it. Rather, it is in the amount of relationships and dependencies it has. How many other organisms are connected to it? What is the system around it? What are the complexities of these relationships? Now, for the sake of this argument, let's take the case of meat. Now, before we go any further, we have to recognize that not all meat are equal. There is the industrial meat, the monoculture of animal protein. And then there's game meat, which comes from hunting. And finally, there's the farm meat, hopefully from holistic and organic farms, where each animal plays a specific role. Together with the humans, they have entered in a evolutionary symbiosis, a mutual agreement to increase each other's survival. Now, I don't want to get into the debate, at least for now, about the moral ethic of meat. That the baseline of meat is that all meat are the same because ultimately animals are suffering. I do have my opinion and I plan on circling back on the topic later. But for now, let's go back to our three different kinds of meat. We can spend a lot of time analyzing all the resources that are involved to create each kind of meat. The amount of land, the water, the fuel, the collateral, the damages, the environmental footprint, the amount of drugs or medication involved, and all the little and big variables that are needed to create your equation of input for the output. But let's change our perspective and let's focus on the amount of relationships each create. And not just the amount, but the richness and the complexity, the depth of these relationships. Let's look at the quality of the product. Let's look at the integrity of the process. The industrial meat is produced in an industrial manner. It isolates, it zones in on what it wants and discards everything else. The animal is not seen as an entity that has multiple relationships. Rather, it is seen as a product, something that can be engineered for maximal yield. In that world, there is no depth or complexities. Everything is linear. It is the industrial mindset. Get from point A to point B while maximizing the benefits and minimizing the losses. The quality of the product nor the integrity of the process are the objectives. What is important is quantity and as little time as possible. Operations are scaled so that the process can be streamlined and the undesirable consequences can be either exported or ignored. As long as it doesn't affect the quarterly expectations or the production goals, The quality is low, but you have large quantities of it. It is financially cheap for the end users, while the consequences or the real cost have been hidden away, out of sight, or exported. So industrial meat demands a lot of resources, has little to no relationships, and create tons of consequences. Now, game meat, or the meat coming from hunting. And what we're talking about here is sustenance hunting, not trophy hunting. In this case, we have two main characters, a predator and a prey, engaging in a chase that has been going on for millions of years. And each has developed a strategy for survival that is rooted in this dynamic. High reproduction and low energy needs for the prey, and low reproduction and high energy needs for the predators. The chase is dynamic, it evolves, and each player is constantly trying to outwit the other. Teamwork is a key for the success, and the community is often involved. Not only nothing of the animal's death is wasted, but it also creates a chain of dependencies. Because it is quite labor intensive, the meat has a pretty high value. The process has complexity and depth. And while the taste is stronger and lacking consistency, the quality is superior. In summary, quantity is low, but quality, time, and value are high. Now for the holistic and organic farms, when done properly, the complexities and dependencies abound. Every organism, every animal, every plant have a purpose, and together they create a sustainable loop of abundance. It is a process that is time-consuming, but where the community and the quality are priorities. What is the value of an animal in that system? Way more than the resources it needs to live. It is an active participant in an evolutionary symbiosis. In this reality, the meat has a lot of flavors, a lot of character, it has depth, and the quality is by far extremely superior. If we look at life with a simple perspective of input versus output, we'll soon realize that nothing in nature makes sense. Under that lens, everything would be a waste, even more so humankind. Not even the universe would make sense. All this empty space, all these stars burning for nothing, for what? For one single little planet to have life? What about all the energy a fish puts into laying down millions of eggs only for one to survive? It is total nonsense. But it is also what makes life so rich and so full of surprises. Life is not about just a question of input versus output. Life is about the depth and complexities, the richness of the relationship, the dependencies and the symbiosis it creates. An animal or the food that we eat is not just an equation of ingredients, but what is the experience? What is the relationship with our environment? Do we honor that relationship, or are we ashamed of it? So next time you hear the arguments of the linear explanation of resources and products, take the moment to think a little bit deeper. Take a moment to think of the communities that are involved, the quality of the product, the integrity of the process, the values that it celebrates, the longevity of the process. Is it sustainable or not sustainable? And the experience it creates. So that's it for this week. Don't forget, take the time to stop, breathe, relax, listen. Not with your ears, but with your heart and with your mind. Bye.